Hi, this is Art Maines from Scammercast.com, where we educate, inform, and protect our elders and those who care for them on the Two Guys Talking podcast network.
Welcome to the Green Gab Podcast, a place to gab with people rocking it in green. Green homes, green living, and green companies. Join Marla Esser-Close, the green home coach and author of Living Green Effortlessly, Simple Choices to a Better Home, and Tony Pratt, the Director of Builder Relations at The Sound Room. Here are your hosts, Marla and Tony.
Hey, we're still gabbing at the St. Louis Home and Garden Show. We've been gabbing all day with some wonderful, wonderful folks here. I am so excited we're going to be here for 3 more days. But yeah. I hope we have a voice left.
That's a lot of talking. I'm already feeling it. My throat is killing me. But then again, we've basically been doing this since 9 o'clock this morning, whether on air or talking to other guests or lining up guests for the week.
I know.
It's a lot of talking. But it's still fun.
It's a good thing we like to talk.
Speak for yourself.
So, as I get ready to introduce our guest, I keep having this song run through my head, and Mike, everybody must do this to you. Take a chance on me.
Yes. Well, it's also, I hear
never
Slim
thought
and
that.
Fat and None are my cousins, so.
Say that again.
Slim, Fat, and None are my cousins. Chance. I'm here all day, folks.
Okay, Mike.
You're just not going to be on the air all day.
Okay, folks, this is what you get for an end-of-day podcast. I had a lot of fun going on here. Mike Chance of Velux Skylights. Let me properly introduce you. You've been a business colleague, friend, HBA, St. Louis member. We've all three been on the
years.
Green Council for ages, on the advisory, or what do we call that, the steering committee. And
Heck, I've been at 3 companies since the time I've known you.
That's right. I've been at one. I've been at one 20 years now.
so, since we're taking a chance on you,
But I'm bummed.
give us a little background. Tell us what you do with Velux. You guys just have some amazing stuff, and I'm not going to spill the beans yet. But tell us what you do with Velux. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, Velux Skylights, they've been around since 1941. We started out in
1941?
Yes.
That's a long time for skylights.
Started out in Copenhagen, Denmark. One man, one glazing engineer that had the idea that he can make a roof window better than any vertical window out there.
Okay, wait a minute
And we
now.
believe that he has achieved that and since then surpassed that.
Okay, now this is something I'm going to find fascinating really quick. So, 1941, Denmark.
Yes.
We're talking occupied Denmark in World War II.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it. Just think about that for a minute. Here's a company getting started during World War II. And the basic need, the reason behind why he started the company is that the Danish government came to him being a structural glazing engineer and said, we want to find a way to bring the best daylighting into the core of our school buildings. And they had an attic space that was basically not being used. And so square footage being a key component, obviously with the war going on, he found a way to invent the world's first operable roof window.
Wow.
So
that
you
is
could bring in
amazing.
light.
I never knew that.
It could bring in light, and bringing in light from above is absolutely the best way you can have daylight come in.
Well,
There's
sure.
several ways you can choose to bring daylight in.
Well, and it seems like it would have been safer in time of war as well.
Yes.
Than having windows on your walls where you could see in and potentially give yourself away to the enemy.
Well,
and
the
all
big
kinds
thing
of
is
craziness.
finding out that we have a choice of providing daylight for a home. So he studied different ways of bringing in light, and vertically, you can only get about 15 to 20% of daylight through the window on the wall.
Right.
Makes
From a
sense.
skylight through the roof, because the sun's oriented that way, you can get daylight 80%. So when you look at how a hole's cut in the roof or a wall, some people say, well, I'm kind of afraid of cutting a hole in the roof, but it's just another hole. It just happens to be on what we call the fifth ceiling.
Well, okay, explain the fifth ceiling.
The fifth ceiling is the undecorated wall. It's actually the ceiling. So we're calling that the fifth wall.
Oh, the fifth wall. I thought you
The
said the
fifth
fifth
wall.
ceiling.
It's
I got
called
you
the
now.
fifth wall.
I got you now. Okay.
So the concept is we started our company with a operable roof window. And a lot of people get scared when they think about, why would I put something on the roof, number one? Well, the daylight is better typically it's going to be twice the amount of light as a window on the wall.
Yeah, it's the old why cut a hole in a roof.
Exactly.
Well, we already cut holes in walls, and nobody seems
We
to
do.
think anything
Sure.
of that.
Well, and think about it. We have chimneys, right? Those are holes.
You have flues.
We have lead pipes. We
Yeah.
have stacks. So those are all holes. This is just nothing undifferent than any other hole, except we have found that our flashing systems allow us to give the best warranty that it will not leak, which is 10 years. So for 10 years, it's guaranteed not to leak, which is pretty incredible. And so the past, when people thought about skylights, let's go back about 20 years. Let's travel back in the Wayback Machine. Okay?
In the Wayback Machine.
I'm showing my years.
I love
That's
that song.
okay. I
now.
think I'm right there with you.
I love
That's
that
okay.
So we've traveled back 20 years. Picture a builder building a home. Back then, let's go to 1980, okay? We just stopped the time machine. So we're here in 1980. What happened around 1980? What was going on during that time?
Well, I
Oil
graduated
crisis.
from high school.
Oil crisis, energy crunch, solar was becoming big
Yep.
with Carter.
Yep.
Finding ways to bring in light. And of course, the builder thought, well, here's this nice skylight, a piece of plastic bubble. Here's a very inexpensive way to bring in daylight. So they were using skylights back in the 80s. The problem was the ones that were made here in America at the time before Velux came in. We've been in America since 1975, just to let you know.
Okay.
But prior to us coming in, the only thing you really had a choice of was a plastic skylight. Well, who
Like
uses
the
plastic?
plexiglass?
Yeah, like plexiglass.
Plexiglass bubbles.
So does anybody now, do they use plexiglass in their windows? No.
No.
So
No.
why would you do that on the roof? Well, it was a very inexpensive way at the time. So Velux, we make a tempered glass laminate, low E3 coated, which is going to give you a very
Wait,
durable
here.
material.
So low E3, just explain that. Some of
Yeah.
our
That's
listeners
a
may
light-
not
No
be familiar
acronyms
with
here.
that term.
Sorry, I digress. So low E3 glass is an industry standard, and most glass companies, like Cardinal Glass, makes a lot of the glass out there in the marketplace. The trick is when you bring in daylight from above or even a window on the wall, it's how do you bring in the light? What happens to the sun? The sun has two components, light and heat. So how do we control heat while at the same time bringing in the most light? So that's where the low E3 component comes in. Low E3 glass is a tinted type glass component. What it does is it lets the light come in, but it blocks the UV and IR rays from the sun, so you're not getting all that extra heat. And it's a balancing act. So when we
Right.
bring in daylight, we have to find what's the best amount of light we can bring in with the least amount of heat, and that's what our glass does. Exactly. So
like a
Interesting.
good window
Yeah.
that can do the same. Yours is just the window on the roof.
exactly. It's pretty much
Just
like a window
opens a
roof,
little
but just
different.
better. Way
Gotcha.
cooler.
Gotcha.
And brings in more light, and you can get them to open. So why not, if you're going to cut a hole, why not open it? How many of you guys out there remember the old whole house fans
Yep.
that you turn on the fan, you could hear this big
Yeah.
suck of air, and you'd open a window on the wall, you turn on the whole house fan, all of a sudden you've got this nice airflow. Well, that's what a venting skylight does. Is keep in mind that we started making the venting ones in 1941. We didn't make our fixed skylight till 1978.
Oh, wow.
So for years, you could only buy a venting operable roof window, and prior to 1975, you could only buy them through Denmark. So Velux has only been in the States since the early 70s. But we brought in this great glass, energy-efficient coating technology, good energy-efficient flashing systems that are designed with no caulks or sealants, and that's why there's a fear behind cutting a hole in the roof, because the old skylights of the old days, you had to literally make your own flashing kit. It was almost like going to your car dealer and saying, I'll take the car, but the car dealer would say, well, it doesn't come with brakes, you have to make your own. It's the same thing. So what would
Wow.
happen? What would happen if
That
you
sounds
buy a
nice.
car and you'd make your own brakes? I think you'd probably have an accident. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. So that's
Gotcha.
exactly the fear behind why people think, I don't know if I should cut a hole in the roof. But it makes absolute sense. Here's a word I want you to remember: cylindrical illuminance.
Cylindrical.
Cylindrical illuminance. That's a mouthful.
Illuminous?
It's a bit of a
Illuminance.
mouthful, yeah.
Okay.
Illuminance.
Cylindrical, luminous. Okay.
So what that means is light coming from above, it's going to be more abundant. It's going to basically spread broader than typically a window on the wall could. So window on the wall is only going to give you so much light punched into the
Right.
core of the building.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
our recessed lights, where does the light come from? That above, right?
Right.
So cylindrical luminance works better at spreading the light more evenly in the space.
Which is the same reason that people put overhead lights in instead of task lighting, because they think, and
Yep.
it can be a good thing considering what kind of light you need. So You get that spreading out effect.
That's correct.
I gotcha.
I would say the key components behind what we do is better air quality inside the home, which obviously Marla's championed the whole efficiency of the house, but it's also about better living. And really, how many of us think about the air that we breathe in our house?
No,
How
we
many
just
times have
expect
you-
it to be good.
We do.
Yeah,
We
we just
do.
expect it to be good quality. But if you would actually have a certified building professional come out and actually do an audit of your house, you would probably be amazed at how many pollutants are inside the home, the air that we breathe right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of those ways that you can actually lessen that would be to use an operable skylight to reduce the volatile organic compounds inside the home.
And volatile organic compounds, folks. That's the nasty stuff, the
So
toxic
I-
stuff. You don't want to bring that.
VOCs.
And I'm actually gonna take a breather here for a second because we just threw a lot of information at you guys.
We did.
And thank you for letting us do that. But let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I still want to circle back to how you got into all this. So hang tight, folks. We'll be right back.
In her book, Living Green Effortlessly, Simple Choices for a Better Home, author Marla Esser-Close shares her expertise and empowers readers to make simple changes to buying habits that affect a home both inside and out. Whether living in a small apartment in the city or a single-family home in the suburbs, Marla shows consumers ways to make any home a green home. Get the book now at livinggreenbook.com. That's livinggreenbook.com.
The Mummy, Dracula, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Wolf Man, Mr. Hyde, Frankenstein's Monster. They're all classic horror characters and offer up some of the best character development in cinema history, but where can you learn about them all in one horrific swoop? Be sure to check out the perspective review of 1986's Monster Squad and finally learn how best to say, never say die. Listen now at twoguystalkinghorror.com. That's twoguystalkinghorror.com.
Thought about a career in voiceover? Need a great, cost-effective on-hold message for your organization or business? Don't know where to start? Check out The Voice Farm, your one-stop shop for voiceover needs. Check it out now by accessing The Voice Farm at voicefarmers.com and see what difference can be made with a company that is truly outside the box. From the Voice Box, voicefarmers.com. That's voicefarmers.com.
Back gabbing with Mike Chance of Velux Skylights. And, okay, Mike, I started out the last segment talking about how we all three knew each other through the Home Builders Association here in St. Louis and working on the Green Building Council, now called the Advanced Building Science and Technology
Committee.
Committee?
Yes.
Thanks.
Committee.
I appreciate that. So, ABSTAC.
Abstat.
There you go. Tell us how you got into Velux. You've been with them for a while and you built some wonderful things.
Well, I started with Velux 20 years ago. I used to work for a building materials supplier, and through selling building materials, I sold Velux, and I liked the product so much that I decided to get into the rep part of the business, and the rest is history. So 20 years later, here I am.
And what's your role now?
My role? That's a good question.
Do you
sounds
not
like
even know
Tony.
your role? Yeah.
Oh,
it's
I
like
know my
me.
role. My role is really to, through the use of daylight from above, I want to have more people experience the benefits of daylight and ventilation in their homes. That's my whole thing.
And what are those benefits?
The benefits are better living, better daylight, which means better health, environment. It's really about the feeling people get when they're in an environment that's well lit.
It's
I
the
love it.
experience of the house.
So we're all in agreement on this whole better thing.
Yes.
You know what the title of my book is, right?
What's that?
Living Green Effortlessly. Simple choices to a better home.
I like that. I like that.
You should
Better
be plugging
home.
the book more on these shows.
I should be plugging the book more.
Every time
Yeah.
we do one, you should talk about that.
I know. Thank you for reminding me. And thank you for being my biggest fan.
Who says I'm a fan?
I don't know. You don't even have a copy of the book yet.
No, you gave me one. You gave me one and you didn't even
Oh,
sign it.
Well, you didn't ask me to.
I shouldn't have to ask you to sign it. You're my friend.
Bring it tomorrow. I'll sign it for you.
So yeah,
Probably in my bag.
Tony, I'm sure remembers the old days. We had the healthy house.
Oh, yeah. Way
And
back
so
when
out of
Gene
the-
Ruther.
The
Gene
healthy
Ruther and the
house
Healthy
is kind of
House.
where I got to start with the green, and then it became the Green Building Council, and then where we are today, which I still can't say the name, so you guys help me out.
That's why it's Abstack.
I just think Aflac, and
I know. Quack, quack.
Yeah.
No duck.
So
Too late.
That's a progression. So I've been a long-time fan of the Home Builders Association because I really believe that they show the working together as a group versus just individually trying to go out on their own. People at the end of the day really want to build a better home.
So, gee whiz, I think you might be a fan of the Home Builders Association.
A little bit. A little bit. Yeah.
This is not a bad
I've been
thing.
No.
I think three of us are in complete agreement here.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that. I think that together we're trying to find a way to build a better home and to make it more. A lot of times people are focused so much on the energy equation. They're focused on how the house looks, but they're not really thinking about the healthy benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's where all of us together, all of our different things in life that we try to pull together and find ways that really the end consumer that's in the house, they can really enjoy their house without their house really. It's almost like the house should give to you versus you giving to your house.
I
You
call
know-
that the promise of your home.
There you
know,
go.
You said one thing, that people spend a lot of time thinking about what it looks like and not really thinking about the healthy aspects of it. I think a lot of that is because they just assume, since it's a new home, well, it's got to be healthy.
Right.
Well, it's that whole performance aspect.
Right.
We want a home that looks good, but we kind of forget that it needs to perform well. And when you really think about it, when you get that home, no matter what kind of home you're getting, you will spend time, money, energy, I call it hassle factor, taking care of that home.
Yep.
And how much you choose to take care of that home goes into, what goes into that equation is how well it was built so that it can perform for you. And it's no different than how we take care of our
Right.
bodies, right?
Oh,
If you
absolutely.
maintain things well, they last longer, they work better. Well, duh, that's true with anything, right?
And let's face it, doing good installation versus I really like that new furniture set. Which one's more sexier?
Yeah, that's,
Right?
yeah,
So that's our challenge is,
it is.
our money, we only have so many dollars to spend per year, so we have to budget these things. But I think of a house as you have to really have a good core, really, for the rest of it to work well. So the house, again, in my opinion, should be working for you,
Absolutely.
not the other way around. You
Absolutely.
working for your house.
You think of how many hours and hours and hours people spend on their yards, on their homes, and we still don't do most of the really critical things well that we should. We wait, and I say we, I'm generalizing, folks, and I'm guilty. I've done it too, so shame on me and no shame, so never mind. Strike that comment, because I don't believe in shame. I want to help people find things they can do and celebrate what we can do.
Right.
However, I'm learning with each additional home that it gets added into my life, I'm learning from what I've done before, and I'm learning that the more I can invest in things, wise choices up front, things that are going to last me longer and have less maintenance, less care, less worry, those things work better for my lifestyle. And those things work better because I don't want to spend all my time on my house. And I find that with so many people right now.
Yep.
And what I love about that is how it ties back to what you guys are doing with Velux is, hey, let us bring a building component to your home that is going to add something beautiful, something psychologically advantageous, because daylighting is really good for our psyche. It makes us happy.
Well, not only
And I
that,
wanna
but
be
it's
happy.
Yeah, and visual acuity. I can speak to that personally. As we get older,
Yeah.
we need more light to see the same thing.
Eh?
Yes.
So that's another reason
Yeah.
where using skylights or daylight from above will definitely give you better lighting and quality light. At the end of the day, you can use the daylight bulbs that are out there now, but they never can mimic what daylight truly can do.
So that's a point I don't think a lot of people understand, is that using daylighting or natural lighting, windows and skylights, isn't just about replacing electric lights.
Right.
It's also about getting a better quality of light.
That's it.
I don't think a lot of us really get that.
Well, and daylighting is full spectrum. So in other words, for color
Right.
rendering is better. I've had people that have put a skylight in after they've not had skylights at all and say, wow, I didn't know that wall was orange. So
That's like my sofa that's green and brown.
so the daylight can truly show true colors,
Yeah.
but it's really helpful as we age, especially aging in place, or if you want to call it universal design, where we have to consider not only where we are today in our age, but what about 20 years from now?
Well, and how many people, we've had a family member have a stroke and vision changes. My husband has a benign brain tumor. His vision has changed with that. So, we're relatively young folks. Okay, we're old enough, but we're still, we've got a long life ahead of us, even though we're middle-aged.
Right.
And it has changed. And I've gotten to the point where I have to walk out into daylight or go over to the window to read things sometimes, just because the electric lighting just isn't good enough.
And this is why in really high-performance homes that are more technologically advanced, you hear terms like daylight harvesting.
Right, which is kind of technical sounding, so explain that.
Well, basically what you're trying to do is you're capturing as much of the outside light as possible. And when you're dealing with a super technologically advanced house, that means you have sensors that are reading the amount of daylight in the room versus the amount of daylight outside and are automatically adjusting blinds and shades to open or close to match that programmed percentage. So that is, if I have more light, natural light outside than is coming inside, I automatically adjust the window treatments so I reach equilibrium, daylight harvesting. Now I have more natural light in the house. I can see things in a better, more even way.
And of course, you guys can do it so we don't have to think about it, right?
And here's a statistic you both probably know. In St. Louis, isn't it funny that in St. Louis in the summer, people fight to get those patio seats? Why do they do that?
Yeah.
Because of all the natural light. They don't want to be stuck inside the building. They want to be out on as soon as we get a nice warm day here in St. Louis, everybody's out on any kind of patio, whether it's a Mexican place or other place. They're looking for that outdoor place and environment. The people want the outside indoors.
Yep.
And that's what we bring.
And then the 98 degrees and 80% humidity hits, and then they're back inside to the air conditioning.
That's it.
We need skylights.
But that has nothing to do with natural light.
That's right. 4 seasons in a day. I love it.
There you go.
I love
in St. Louis.
Yes. Absolutely. There are more benefits than just really bringing in the daylight. It's about the healthy indoor air quality. It's about the quality of light you're bringing in. Again, a cylindrical illuminance. There will be a test on this later on.
So we're going to have to make sure we put cylindrical illuminance in the podcast notes.
Yes.
And if there's a website we should go to explain that, we'll have to attach that too.
Make sure you spell it right too.
Yes.
Yes, that would be helpful. So you'll have to coach me on that.
But it makes sense. Light coming from above versus on the wall. It spreads more evenly. That's why recessed lights are used quite a bit. The energy benefits alone. When you can walk into a house, and I got an old friend that years ago said that the way he did a daylight study analysis of the home is he would go into a home and turn all the lights out. And he would find the dark spots, and there is where he would solve those problems by our product, whether it be a skylight or one of the Velux sun tunnels, which is a tubular daylighting device is what they call it. So it's reflected daylight. So what it does is it harvests the light from the roof. It's going through it's a silver bonded to aluminum. Our tube is a silver bonded to aluminum, and that light goes deep into the core. You can actually go up to 20-foot runs with this tubing.
Because it reflects, right?
Because it reflects. Right. It's like a high-shine mirror. So the idea is that no matter if it's a hallway, closet, bathroom, those areas where there's no window, that's a perfect spot for what we call the Velux sun tunnel, the tubular daylighting devices.
Closets,
that's what I want.
Big one.
Yeah,
exactly.
I want one in my closet.
Exactly. So making your choice is all about, you have to ask yourself the basic questions. Do I want to see the view to the outside sky? Or am I more interested in just the daylight harvesting?
Right.
And then what has to make sense is picking the device that looks right for the room. Like I've seen where if you have a tubular light on the ceiling and it's a vaulted ceiling, a skylight looks so much better because of the view and the look, and you can see the stars at night. You can dream. I hear people all the time say, I get moonlight at nighttime coming through the skylight.
I need one right above my bed. So
there you go.
Can lay in bed and look at the stars.
And the other question that I'm sure people are thinking out there right now is, what about the times you don't want the sun or the moonlight? Well, we have solar-powered, remote-controlled blinds that are remotely available to control that light coming in. So you don't always have to have the light in a bedroom. let's face it, first thing in the morning, if you're not an early riser, then
Yeah.
you can program the blind to actually shut right before 6 in the morning, whatever. And then that way you're not waking up to sun. But it's proven in studies that waking up to sunlight is the best way to reset your body clock.
Yep.
That's another benefit.
What is that, our circadian rhythms?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I wake up with the sun generally. And it's funny because in Oklahoma City, we're on the west side of the time zone
Yep.
compared to St. Louis. So it's about a half-hour shift
Okay.
in sunrise and sunset. So
wow.
I wake up later in Oklahoma City because sunrise is half an hour later.
Sure.
And I can't afford to wake up later. But I don't naturally wake up. I have to, get my alarm clock. Just don't think about these things until they happen. And you're, yeah, that's circadian rhythm stuff. So anyway,
Sure.
So
body's
really
automated.
it becomes, like you said, we're just a component of the entire house.
I got it.
We're an improvement where somebody may think of it as an accessory or maybe it's a premium option in a home. Realistically, it should be a standard in the home because if you think about it, if we can choose a hole in the roof or the ceiling or the wall, the skylight producing double the amount of light of a window and wall, wouldn't you choose the skylight over the window and the wall? Now, I'm not saying get rid of windows on the wall.
Right.
I'm saying get it a nice balance. So we call it the square foot floor to glass ratio. So if you have a lot of windows, maybe your square foot floor glass ratio is 30% of the house. That's a lot of glass.
Yeah.
Glass equals heat, right?
Right.
So if we can
Or
reduce
loss of heat.
yeah. So if you can reduce the number of windows in the wall and add just a few skylights, now you're balancing light into the room and you're making the house more energy efficient at the same time.
So more
Well,
light, less glass.
That's
and,
it.
And Mike, you and I have talked about this in length, multiple occasions, that we understand where houses are going technologically speaking. And while right now that, skylight is really more of an option, we can both see in 3 to 5 years as houses get smarter and smarter and everything in those houses are automated, where skylights are just a natural feature, an expected standard feature because they're tied into the rest of the house.
That's it.
So nowadays, people aren't even thinking about skylights opening and closing, blinds or shades dropping on the light. It's automatically done. As sensor reads point A, automatically the skylight will open or the skylight will close to either get in fresh air, or it's raining outside so I don't want moisture to come in the house, or oh my gosh, hey, the front porch light just went off because it's about 30 minutes to sunrise, so now the shade closes on the skylight,
Right.
so I don't have so much light coming in. So as these houses get smarter and smarter, this is what we're going to see.
That's right. We talked about earlier getting in the time machine. Did we get back to present? I don't think
I
we
don't
did.
know. I think we're going to take a quick break, though.
All right.
And let's take a deep breath, and then we'll be right back because we're going to talk about that time machine some more.
Everyone's wanted to start a blog, but who wants to start one all on your own? Take your interest in creating a blog to the next level by getting bit by the Bloggers Bug. Bloggers Bug is a blogging community that allows you to polish your blogging skill set today. Log on today at bloggersbug.com and get bit by the Bloggers Bug. bloggersbug.com. That's bloggersbug.com.
Looking for a straightforward user interface and a cost-effective, feature-filled multi-track recording software? Call off the search. Mixcraft from Acoustica has exactly what you're looking for. It's time to include reliable audio creation and editing software with real punch into your projects. Check out Mixcraft now over at acoustica.com/Mixcraft and start a new generation of audio creation and editing today.
Well, we're still gabbing about daylight and skylights and moonlight, and that's
As
got a
long
rhythm
as-
going to
As
it.
long as the voice continues to hold up, we'll be gabbing about it.
Okay, so Mike promised us over the last couple of segments that we were in this time machine,
The Wayback Machine.
the Wayback Machine. That was it.
That's right.
So where did we
Wayback
leave
machine.
off?
Well, we were in 1980, so I apologize for not bringing you back
That's
up to
okay.
current.
We'll come on back.
So we're coming back to current. So now I'm going to ask you to dream for a minute. Dream about having that master bathroom. And we know that master bathrooms are getting larger and larger. A lot of people want the big master walk-in showers with lots of shower heads and things. But the one thing that is still a mystery to me is putting a window on the wall.
Over
the
the
big
top?
thing over the top.
Over the top, yes.
Yes.
The big issue with that is always privacy. So if you're in a
voyeur.
home and your neighbor has the same picture window, well, that presents a issue of privacy, right?
Mine's frosted.
And even with frosted, then you're losing some of the light, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
or they'll give the transom window.
Let's dream a minute and think about having a venting skylight overhead over your shower on the fifth wall or the ceiling. And now you're able to reduce condensation moisture when you're taking a shower, number one. Number two, you have more light, so it looks like you're outside when you're inside. There's where I want you to dream, right there. What do you
Cool.
think about that?
I love that.
No,
It's a nice
no
dream.
picture window, beautiful room. And I swear these showers are getting huger and larger. I think someday you'll be able to fit your car in there.
Now the trend is just a wet room.
A
Yeah.
wet
So
room.
you just have one big tiled room,
Okay.
and there's a shower head and the spray things in one corner.
Little benches
Yeah.
and
I'm not a huge fan personally because I like my steam, but this is a trend we've seen in a lot of the houses.
Yep.
They had it at the New American Home.
bathrooms are all over the place, it
They
seems,
are.
when it comes to showers and tubs.
And I'm sure, Tony, you could speak to the TVs and things, coffee bars.
Well, we've got
know.
the one TV right now that we've
Controls.
got in the automation house at the new showroom. It is made to go into the shower.
That's
You put it in the
amazing.
shower.
That's
There's
amazing.
no reason to ever get out.
Between the coffee
We'll be
bar and the
shriveled.
TV, yeah. You've got coffee, you got tea. What else is there? Caffeine and
Yeah.
plugged in completely.
So let me ask. Okay, so we talk about dream green home. You're really thinking about what your priorities are, what you want your home to give to you, what promises and benefits you want. Tony and I did a workshop last summer, and we really want people to stop a moment and think about their homes in a different way. Whether it's an existing home or they're going to remodel or they're planning to build a new home, it doesn't matter. So you're talking about dreaming as well. So how do you play into this? How do we get people to dream that these things really are possible? And how do we get them to ask? So for instance, a lot of our listeners are homeowners and residents. How do we get them to ask for these kind of things? And how do we get builders and remodelers to think these kinds of things are possible with daylight and with skylights and this out of the box thinking, really, right?
I think a lot of times in the past, advertising or marketing focused on product only. And so didn't everybody ask at one time, dream about this?
Yeah.
Dream about the space. What you're trying to do is figure out, how do I fit into this space and what is it going to do for me? I think that's a lost equation. And I think we have to help our consumers really live in that environment.
That's a great point, because this is some of the things that we talk about. When we're meeting with a homeowner that's building a house, every conversation has always been about what it's going to look like.
Right.
And sometimes we're the very first people that say, how are you trying to live in this house?
That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
What is that experience? And they'll look at you with this confused look of, well, nobody's ever asked me that. And that really is the most important question. I
It
don't
is.
care what color it's going to be. I don't care what kind of roofing shingles you're getting and all that. That really, while it looks pretty, is not affecting how you feel and your experience of the actual house and how you live in the house.
Okay, so I want to dig in a little bit later because this is kind of a foreign concept, how you experience a home. And I'd like each of us to take a moment, to take a few sentences and describe how we think of an experience in our own home. So people have an understanding of what we're talking about.
Sure.
You want to start, Mike?
What I think of when I think of a house is, what's my comfort level in the house? Am I comfortable with my house? Does my house fit my needs? Does it fit the layout, the design? I mean, those are criteria, but also, what about me as a person, health-wise? Is my house going to take care of me in terms of, will I have the proper air quality? Will I have enough daylight where I'm not having to turn on switches? And we think about, and I talked to an architect one time about this on the commercial realm. When they design a building, it's called value engineering a lot of times, but unfortunately, a lot of times the skylights are the first thing to go when they really should be the first thing to stay, because that affects the energy consumption in the building by as much as 50%.
What?
50%.
Oh, I believe it.
So if you look at Walmart, for
Wow.
example, I just plugged Walmart, but
It's okay.
Walmart's using 300 skylights in every one of their buildings, and the reason why they're doing that is they find twofold benefits. Number one, it's better light for the consumer, because when you go in, if you see color better, you're probably going to be more emotionally connected to that product.
Yep.
Number two, they save 50% on their energy bill for every building. Can you imagine?
Just with
3,000
daylighting.
just with daylighting.
Well, and
Wow.
Walmart, I know this from friends that are accountants that handle Walmart. They're the auditors. Walmart is very good about reading investment and return.
That's right.
So if they're the ones sitting there saying, we're going to keep the skylights, then pretty much everybody should, because there is a return on
Yeah, we
investment
should
on
learn
that.
from that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
Yep.
Walmart will not make that decision
No.
if there is no return.
That's
Okay,
right.
so
They
let's
just won't.
back out of that rabbit hole.
Sure.
So good rabbit hole, though.
Oh,
a
yeah.
Very good rabbit hole. So what else, does that kind of cap off your experience in your home, or is there anything else we missed?
I think so. For me, it's really about my environment. Does my house work for me in terms of layout? The heating, cooling component's an important part of that because, again, it's all really about comfort. Is
Yeah.
the word I would say. Comfort. That's the best way to
And there's a
describe
lot
it.
of aspects to comfort. I'm becoming more attuned to that.
Yep, but that's the word I would use in a nutshell is comfort.
Okay, Tony, how about you? What's your experience of the house, of your home?
For me, the experience of my home is, one, I want it to be convenient. I want it to be easy to operate, and it's got to be relaxing. When I'm in my home, it's the only time I have to decompress. I do not work from home. I never have. Reason being, when I'm at work, that's work time. When I'm at home, that's my time.
Right.
I've had opportunities even at the sound room. They told me, if you want to work from home, you can. Well, no, I choose not to. I do not have a home office. Reason being, I do not do work from home.
Yep.
So I want to be able to know if I'm sitting and relaxing, if I'm taking care of, surfing on the net, if I'm shopping online, whatever. I got to make sure my Wi-Fi is working. I want to make sure that, hey, my AV, because I'm relaxing, I'm watching movies, I'm listening to music. I want to make sure it's all easy to operate, whether it's just off of my phone, I can just grab an app and go. I want to make sure if I'm away from home, hey, my thermostat's automated, so it knows when I'm gone. It adjusts for it, so I can save energy and I can use less energy.
And still be comfortable.
And still be comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
I want my house to do a lot of the thinking, so when I'm walking around it at 6 o'clock in the morning, half awake, I don't have to make these decisions. The house is doing it for me.
Right.
So for me, that's what I look for. Those are my experiences in the house. But then again, that's also what I do for a living. So
Right.
that's why that would kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
Sure.
So I come at it from a really kind of different perspective, go figure, and gender differences may have something to do with that as well, which is cool. I mean, that's just a reality of life. Flexibility has always been a really big thing in my life. I do have a home office. I do have a separate place to go so I can be away from my home. And it's kind of part refuge. I have my little reading chair in there, and I have my exercise gear in there, and I have my office in there. So it kind of has to be a multifunctional space for me, but it is away from the rest of the home. But for instance, it is very important for me to feel very comfortable in my home, and that's not just the physical attributes of heat and cold and air drafts.
The mental.
It's the mental comfort. So for instance, I need to be able to see a view. I need to be able to see nature. I need daylighting, even if it's a rainy, dreary day. The first thing I do when I wake up is open the blinds.
Yeah.
It's just the way I am. Moving into a new home that we thought we had thought through a lot of things, we learned that we didn't. But here's what's key about that. We had a list of priorities, and we did meet our top priorities. We had to give up on some of the other things. Now, it happened to be that some of the things we gave up, I had in my old place. So that was kind of like, yeah, I'm not real crazy about letting go of that. Like losing my nest was a big one, as we've talked about a lot on the podcast. I don't have a nest in the new home. I can get one, but we wanted to give it a year with the system as installed so we could do some benchmarking, because I'm also using my home as a testing ground. Since I'm in the business, I figured, hey, I got this opportunity. But we're learning a lot from it. And this is an interim home for us, so it's enabling us to keep our list of what our real dream green home is, the one that we're going to build or remodel and not have to be in the huge rush we were with this house, but it's giving us that real learning experience. So I like that. I like that experience now of learning from my home, because when I get to the point of building or remodeling my dream green home, I want it to be as much as it can be, but more importantly, I want it to be flexible enough to change with me as my needs change and as Scott's needs change. And that's something we've learned from this house that I hadn't really taken into consideration before. So like retrofitting with a skylight and a sun tunnel would be something I'd love to do, and it's something I can do.
Well,
So yeah, there's all kinds of things to do.
Well, that brings up a good point. You mentioned that flex space is also another area that I think as we move forward, there's a lot of people struggling with, mom and dad's getting older and aging in place.
Yep.
Kids are moving back in. So we're creating this multi-generational home experience. And so how do we handle that? And so we need more flex space now more than ever. And one of the ways that we can help the listener out there with that is we have what we call a roof window. And remember I'll go back in the time machine real quick to 1941. That's the first window Velux invented, the operable roof window. And so that takes advantage of what in Europe they live in the attic space. So here in America, we don't use our attics as much. We did for a while, but we're now using. We quit. But for a while, we were using the attic space, and it's a great place when you have tight lot lines and you have very little space to build on. You can build up cheaper than out.
Yep.
So by using a roof window, our roof windows meet egress for bedrooms. So they do meet, yes, for a fireman.
Wow.
And think about that from a perspective of more light than if you were to choose a dormer window. I have a good builder friend of mine. We both know him. Built a home recently within the last several years. And after they used dormers on the garage, they thought, wow, we could have used the roof window and gotten more light and less cost than to build a dormer. A dormer window is very expensive to build.
Can you replace a dormer with a roof window, or is that?
It would be a cost.
Okay.
I mean, you would basically be taking off. A dormer is like a mini building. So if you were to choose a roof window over a dormer, you'd save so much and also have more light.
And I know you and I were talking about this offline, and we're just about to run out of time here, but I kind of want to leave with this parting thought. You and I were talking earlier about the fear factor and how hard it is for us as human beings to remember that being vulnerable is what helps us to learn. And with something that's out of the box thinking, which a skylight can be, and I know this is just a thing, but it represents so much more because you have to think about the structure of a home differently for skylights to really be their big impact that they can be and that they're intended to be, so they can really be up to their full potential. So I challenge everybody listening to this podcast, try to take your blinders off and think outside the box and think about how your home could really deliver to you. And a skylight is just one aspect of that.
That's right.
But it's a great representation of how thinking about something differently, thinking about light in your home differently. We have these great products out there that allow you to do this and to take advantage of them. And while it is something that can be retrofitted, I've got to guess that it's a lot easier to plan for it in the beginning and not have the extra cost of doing it twice.
It's very simple to add later on. Yes, during the building process, it certainly just fits right in very nicely with everything else.
I can see that. Well, I could sit here and talk with you all day. Matter of fact, we probably will, because we're going to another event, so we're going to keep talking.
We're just going to do it off air.
Yeah, off air. What parting thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with?
Well, again, just think about the spaces you're in out there and think about what areas of your home needs daylight improvement, and just take a simple test. Go to one of your light switches on the wall right now if you want to. Turn the light off and see the lack of daylight in the room, even if you have windows in the room. And that's where we can make a big impact for you. We can really improve. How would you like to walk into that room and not have to turn the light on during the day? That's what I want you to think about.
There you go, folks.
It's a good thought.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come onto the Green Gab with us so very much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's
We've
been
been
great.
talking about it for a while.
I know.
So
We
it's
finally
nice to
got it
actually
done.
see you here.
Absolutely. And we all hang together, so this makes sense.
There you go. So to find Mike and Velux, tell us how to find you.
Well, we have a website, well, actually two websites, whyskylights.com. That's whyskylights.com.
WHY?
WHYskylights.com. Or you can also do veluxusa.com.
Okay.
veluxusa.com.
Awesome. So we'll be checking it out. We'll put all that on the podcast notes as well.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Green Gab Podcast and for joining us on our own personal Green Odyssey as we change the world one Green Gab podcast at a time. What did you learn about during this episode? Tell us now by visiting our website at greengabpodcast.com. And remember to connect with us via iTunes, Facebook, and Twitter. The links to do all of this are at our website, greengabpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, but more importantly, thanks for rocking it in green.